Dr. O'Brien, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank
It
you.
is great to meet you as well. So we were just talking a second ago before we hit the record button, and you were telling me a little bit about your background. And I asked you just to hit the pause button. Can you go back about 30 seconds and I guess take us back to 2013? What did you learn and realize, and what did that prompt you to do?
Yeah. I was in a seminar a friend of mine was hosting, and JJ Virgin, and um, I was startled to learn that you could reach a lot of people at one time with some information online, and I really didn't know anything about that. And so I stood up and made a declaration that I was going to go out and interview the world's greats on the field of wheat-related disorders, gluten sensitivity, celiac disease, because that had been my expertise for many years. And I went out and did the interviews. And my first interview was Professor Michael Marsh at Oxford. And if you go to a gastroenterologist and he orders an endoscopy, they put a tube down your throat and they take a look at your stomach and your intestines. They snip out a little piece and bring it out, look at it under a microscope. The report is Marsh 1, Marsh 2, Marsh 3 editors. This was Marsh. And so that started me and on this, and I did interviews for about 7 months, and we launched the Gluten Summit, and we had 118,000 people attend. Startled, they'd never heard of anything like that, and they asked me, "How did you do that?" My friends Mark Hyman and Deanna Minnick and Alan Christensen and Isabella Wentz. And I said, well, I don't know. We just put it together. We made it up. I said, well, can I talk to your team? And I said, sure, of course. And my team came back to me and said, Doc, your friends all want to do summits and we should start a company to do this. And I said, oh, it's not my thing. You guys go ahead, not my passion, but go ahead with my blessing. That was the start of Health Talks Online. That has done almost all of the online summits for the last 11 years. And so
Wow.
tens of millions of people have been helped on their journey in one way or another by Health Talks Online. And I'm doing an event now. I don't do these very often, and it's not my expertise. Well, actually, it is because I did the first one. But when there's a passion, nothing stops us.
That's right.
And I lecture all over the world. I've not gone to the Far East, so I can't speak to there, but South America, Latin America, North America, Europe, I lecture a lot. And there's not much that's all or every, but this is every. And doctors don't talk about this. And I want the whole world talking about this, so we're doing an event. Every person, the Center for Disease Control tells us that 14 of the 15 top causes of death in the world today are chronic inflammatory diseases. It's without exception. It's always, other than unintentional injury, an accident. Everything else is chronic inflammation under the surface that's there for years while you feel fine. And then you get diagnosed with cancer as if it just came on last week. Or then you get diagnosed, you have a heart attack as if the problem just developed in the last couple months. Or then you start getting migraines as if they just began out of the blue. But the inflammation under the surface, while you feel fine, has been going on for years, killing off tissue, killing off tissue, killing off tissue, until you damage enough tissue. Now you start getting tissue dysfunction. Then it becomes tissue dis-ease. Then it becomes symptoms. Then it becomes tissue disease. And then you get the diagnosis, and then you do something about it, trying to do something heroic with a pill, as if there's a particular pill that's going to correct the problem. And there's not. Sometimes you can get temporary results from the symptoms. Of course, you have high blood pressure, you better take the medication. But you also need to find out where's the inflammation coming from that's causing the high blood pressure? Because it could be mold in your house, or it could be a food sensitivity, or it could be a toxic relationship. There's something triggering the inflammation. And until you find that, you're just chasing your tail, chasing the symptoms. It does not matter what the symptoms are. There is no root cause. There are many causes, but there is one root mechanism for all
Inflammation.
disease. Inflammation. It's always inflammation. So I've traveled the world for a year now, just over a year. 2 weeks ago, it was the first interview I did for this. And I've interviewed the experts, over 65 experts all over the world. And we put together the inflammation equation, decoding the path to optimal well-being. Because there's so much information out there, it's overwhelming. Right. You never know where to start. So we came up with the equation. You plug this into the equation, then it's really obvious what the next step is. But, you know, one of the things I say to patients is, if I've got a map of New Delhi, I know how to get around New Delhi. I've got the map and I can see this road will take me here. And if I want to get over there, I can go this way to get there. And if I take that map and I look at the map, but I'm in New York, it's not going to help me at all.
That's right.
Right? So the rule is test, don't guess. Just do the right test to find out where is the inflammation coming from. And then you know how to get started in turning around the direction your health is going in.
Okay.
One of our basic messages is there is absolutely no reason in the world why this doesn't relate to every person here. And that is, you can arrest the development of your chronic disease. You can stop it in its tracks and often turn it around and reverse diabetes, reverse high blood pressure, reverse recurrent miscarriages, reverse seizures. It doesn't matter. You can do that when you identify the source of inflammation and reduce the triggers of inflammation.
Yeah. So let me ask you then, as we talk more about inflammation, and you were talking about wheat, where does a person, what are we supposed to do with respect to wheat? Get rid of all of it, eat it in moderation. What kind of wisdom or advice would you give us with that?
That's really a good question. And once again, what does the map say? So what does the science say? So the science is really clear that we have the same kidneys, the same liver, the same lungs, the same immune system as our ancestors 15,000 years ago. It's the same. Genetics don't change very quickly, right? And our ancestors, before agriculture, they were nomads. They followed the herds for food. They were always following the herds. And their primary concern was food. And they'd find something, they'd pick it up. First, they sniff it, then they nibble at it, then they'd eat it. And if there was something toxic in the food that they didn't identify, you have sentries standing guard inside the first part of the intestine. And I think of the soldiers at Buckingham Palace with those big hats, right? They're as dormant as can be. They don't move. They're just there, but don't mess with those guys. Do not mess with them. And that's what toll-like receptors are in your gut and all over your body, but for this discussion in the gut, toll-like receptors are just standing guard. They're watching everything that comes out of the stomach into the intestine to make sure there's no bugs, there's no bad parasites, there's no bad bacteria. When they see a bacteria that's a threat, and they identify it because the shell of the bacteria has a amino acid structure, they see these amino acids in a certain grouping and say, that's not good. I better fight that thing. The category is a pathogen. It recognizes a pathogen. Two things happen within 5 minutes. First, you get leaky gut. It activates the protein zonulin for leaky gut. Why leaky gut? Because when the cells open up a little bit, water leaks out of the body into the gut, and it washes out the threat with the poop. Leaky gut is not bad for you. Excessive leaky gut is bad for you. So that's the first thing it does. The second thing, it activates the major amplifier of inflammation. It's called NF-kappa B. I call him the desk sergeant at the police station. You guys, you go over here. You guys go to this neighborhood. You guys go over here. That's NF-kappa B, the major amplifier of inflammation. So it activates inflammation. So two things happen. One, you wash out the threat. And two, you got a whole lot of inflammation to kill whatever this threat was. Now, those ancestors that did not have good functioning toll-like receptors, they died. They got food poisoning, they died. They did not reproduce, so their lineage died with them. Those that had good defensive immune systems in the gut to protect them, they survived, they reproduced, they passed on their genes. We all have those genes now. Every human on the planet has these genes of toll-like receptor identifying any bug coming into the first part of the intestine. Okay, that's the background. Okay. That's the map. That's the map that you need for this question that you asked. Now, there is only one thing, one food that activates toll-like receptor in every human, and that's wheat. Wheat activates toll-like receptor, and this is from Harvard. In one paper, they said gluten is misinterpreted as a harmful component of a microorganism. That your immune system, standing guard there to protect you, sees wheat coming into the small intestine and thinks it's a bug. It's a bad bug. And so it activates leaky gut and it activates inflammation within 5 minutes of it coming into the intestine. And Maureen Leonard, famous gastroenterologist at Harvard, she did a literature review on this topic. She looked at over 60 studies, and she published in the Journal of the American Medical Association on this. She said, gluten activates toll-like receptor 4 in all humans who consume it. So that means you and your family and everyone. So every time we eat wheat, we activate leaky gut and we get more gut inflammation. So I never say everyone needs to give up wheat. I never say that. That makes me sound like a nutcase. But I do say if you have a health concern that you're not happy with the results so far, you just need to check. You need to test, is my immune system fighting wheat?
How long would that test be? So, for example, I'll use myself. So I have a couple of concerns, work out pretty well. I still got some fat around the waist area though. So would removing wheat for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, is that a test that we can do? I've had allergy tests, or is it something more that a person would have to really experiment with?
Yeah, that's a good question. Unfortunately, most of our doctors are using tests and the technology is from the 1980s or 1990s. Okay. They're okay tests, but they're wrong 2 or 3 out of 10 times. It's called the sensitivity and specificity of the test. Mm-hmm. New technology, if I were to tell you back in 1990 or 1995, in 25 years or so, I'm going to have this little black thing the size of my wallet, that if I lift it up and if I just push a couple of buttons here, just push them or slide or something like that, I can tell you within 5 seconds that the air particulate matter in Chicago today is 59. That's a warning zone. Do not ride your bicycle outside today because you're breathing too much toxic air. Or In Maliha, Australia, it's 45. It's a good day to be outside and exercise. San Francisco's 24, really good day. In other words, I've got the Encyclopedia Britannica in my hand. I can tell you anything you want to know in 5 seconds, right? If I told you that back in 1990, you would have thought I was watching too much Star Trek,
Right.
right? Technology improves. Technology has improved in laboratory medicine. And Mayo Clinic wrote the first papers on this back in 2016, January of 2016. I read that paper and I said, what? Because I'd known for a long time that tests for wheat were okay, but not very good. And some people would do a test for wheat, it comes back negative, but they say, but doc, I feel better if I don't eat wheat. And I just say, I don't know what to tell you. I certainly don't eat it if you don't feel good, but I don't know. It was the test. The test was wrong. Now the tests are very accurate. And it's called the wheat zoomer because you can zoom in on the problem. And it's very, very accurate, 97 to 100% sensitive and specific. And you can go to my website, thedr.com, thedoctor.com, just don't spell the word doctor out, and type in wheat zoomer, print out the information, take it to your doctor and say, would you order this test for me, please?
Gotcha.
And if they won't order it, you can order it on my site. It's easy enough. Yeah. And it's a finger prick. And it's 97 to 100% sensitive and specific.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you for that. Well, I have a lot more other questions, but I know there are some that we were going to talk about. I know you're passionate about this. Let me ask you, talking about environmental toxins, we've been talking about wheat and inflammation. What are the most common environmental toxins affecting family health today?
Oh my goodness. Well, the most common source of environmental toxins is what's on the end of your and that is the most common. And people say, well, I feel fine when I eat wheat. I don't feel bad. Well, but when you read the science, when you've got the map, and you read the science, only 1 person out of 8 gets gut symptoms when they have a problem with wheat. 7 out of 8 get brain symptoms or skin symptoms or blood pressure problems or liver detox insufficiencies or kidney problems. They don't get gut symptoms. So they eat wheat and they feel okay. So it's not a problem for me. I feel fine when I eat it. So if that's the determining criteria you use, you'll get it right 1 out of 8 times. And you'll miss it 7 out of 8 times. Doesn't matter how you feel, that this thing causes leaky gut in everyone. And just read the science. It's really clear. And leaky gut is the gateway in the development of autoimmune diseases. So it could be Hashimoto's thyroid disease. It could be cardiomyopathy. It could be rheumatoid arthritis. It could be MS. Just Google MS and gluten or rheumatoid arthritis and gluten. Here come the studies that sometimes that's the trigger that you have to get out of there. Not always, but sometimes. But when you do the right test, it becomes obvious. So the most common environmental trigger is what's on the end of your fork. The second most common is what you're breathing. Some people have heard that indoor air pollution is worse than outdoor air pollution in most areas. And we were talking before the show. You said you're in Texas. It's really common in Texas. You guys have mold terribly. Yeah. And we know of the 5 types of Alzheimer's. Inhalation Alzheimer's is 60 to 65% of all Alzheimer's is what you're breathing.
Wow.
Well, the mold's not too bad in my house. Well, we'll put that on your tombstone. It wasn't too bad, but it was killing off brain cells, killing off every day, killing off brain cells because you're breathing mold. So that's really common that it can be coming from. And then the third category. The third category is the chemicals that we're exposed to. I mean, the average woman, it's 120 chemicals. The average man, it's 86 chemicals you put on your skin before you leave the house in the morning. And we think it's okay. Between the shampoo, the underarm deodorant, the makeup, the shaving lotion, the shaving creams that we use, they're loaded with these chemicals, and the companies do not have to list what's in their product. They don't have to list it. How do they get away with that? Well, they paid off the senators. That's how they did it. But these chemicals are extremely toxic. They're carcinogenic. I mean, for everyone out there, if you do this one check, just this one thing, go in your bathroom, go to the medicine cabinet, pull out the tube of toothpaste, get your glasses, and read what it says. Warning, do not swallow. If swallowed, call National Poison Control Center. This is what you're putting in your mouth or in your children's mouth every day. And we think it's harmless. Or the dentists that are putting silver fillings in your mouth that are 50% mercury. There's skull and crossbones on that stuff when they deliver it to the dentist's office, and they're wearing masks and gloves, but they're going to put it in your mouth and tell you, oh, it's fine. No, it's not. No, it's not. So we have to learn, we have to become educated as to what is triggering our immune system, trying to protect us, creating the inflammation in our bodies. And when you find the trigger and you reduce or eliminate the triggers, the result is your blood pressure goes down, your weight starts to come off, your energy goes up, your child's seizures stop. Listen, 50% in the journal Gastroenterology, they tell us that 50% of children with drug-resistant epilepsy, which means they're on at least 3 medications and they're not working, they're still having seizures. That's how you qualify for the diagnosis of drug-resistant epilepsy. 50% of them go in complete remission on a gluten-free diet. Why don't our neurologists know that? Because this is a gastroenterology journal. The neurologists don't read gastroenterology journals. They read neurology journals. I mean, you just need to check. I mean, it's not every person with seizures has a sensitivity to wheat, or just Google schizophrenia and gluten. Here come the studies that sometimes that's the trigger of the inflammation that's manifesting for that person as schizophrenia. You put them on a gluten-free diet and their schizophrenia goes away. Just read the science on it. It's startling.
Two or three questions just thinking about this here. Somebody listening to this may say, I hear everything you're saying. This feels overwhelming to me because toothpaste, deodorant, I learned about the deodorant a number of years ago, just with some of the things that were in deodorant. So I know you said the number one place to begin is with our forks, with what we're eating. What tips or strategies do you have for a person who does feel overwhelmed with the toxins that are in their house? Where to begin? What are a couple of simple steps?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing in the inflammation equation.
Okay.
Is we're interviewing the world experts on this.
Okay.
It's not something you get in 15 minutes. How to do this. I'm talking about changing your life. I'm talking about changing the direction of your health. Listen, the World Health Organization tells us that the healthy lifespan for a male in the U.S. is 67.8 years. The lifespan for a male in the U.S. is 78.3 years. That means the last 10 and a half years of your life are not healthy. You've got degenerative disease, you're immobilized, you've got a diagnosis, you're on medications, you're in a wheelchair. The last decade of your life. And if you want to change that, if you want to extend the healthy lifespan so that it's closer to the total lifespan, this is what you need to do, is reduce the amount of inflammation in your body. That's the way you do it.
Okay. Personal question. Where do you stand with caffeine? Caffeine is probably, if we describe it as a drug, the most used drug. Maybe alcohol is up there close to it, but I think about 90% of people are consuming caffeine. Is caffeine something we need to be thinking about as a toxin with respect to coffee or energy drinks, teas? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's really a good question. And we've all heard the science, coffee increases your lifespan. Coffee decreases your lifespan. Whatever study you want, you can find it. Well, it's really easy once you have the map. It's your genetics. If
Mm,
you're a slow detoxifier, meaning you don't break down caffeine very well, if you have what's called the CYP1A2, uh, CYP1A2, if you have that SNP, you should not be drinking coffee because those are the people that get more disease from coffee. They get more dysfunction and disease. But if you don't have a CYP1A2 SNP, coffee's fine for you. It's actually got a lot of benefits. So it just depends on what the deck of cards are that you were dealt in this lifetime. You have to read the map. You have to know what the map is. That's why the rule is test, don't guess. Just check it
mm.
out. You just need to do the right tests. And that's what we're talking about. I went to 7 countries and interviewed over 60 some experts and asked the questions like you're asking. Mike, we're in Costa Rica. That's where we live. And someone asked me, well, where do you get your coffee? I ordered my coffee from Reno, Nevada, because my friend owns the company called Brain Bean Nutrition, and he is
Mm.
meticulous to make sure that his coffee beans are the best in the world. They're mold free, they're organic, they're grown by sustainable farms, small farms, and it's the cleanest coffee. So that's where I order my coffee. But whether you drink coffee or not just depends on, do you have the CYP1A2 gene? If you do, you should not be drinking the coffee, man.
Is there an easy way to test for that outside of some kind of a DNA test?
No, it is a genetic test.
Genetic test? Yeah. Okay.
It's not expensive, but most liver detox panels will include the CYP1A.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. So clearly you're passionate about environmental toxins, health. What led you down this path, doctor, to get involved with healthcare and seeking to change people's lives?
When I was an intern, 1979, my ex and I could not get pregnant. So I called the 7 most famous holistic doctors I'd ever heard of and said, what do you do for infertility? They all told me what they do. I put a program together. We were pregnant in 6 weeks.
Wow.
My neighbors in married housing had been through artificial insemination and nothing had worked for them. And they'd ask, could I work with them? And I said, well, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I don't think it'll hurt you. They were pregnant in 3 months. So now we're 4 months pregnant, hot to trot, ready to go out and tell the world. And our friends had a sister in Wisconsin. I was in school in Chicago. And their sister had had 2 miscarriages. Could my sister come talk to you, please, please? And I said, well, sure, okay, I guess. And so we started helping people with recurrent miscarriages and infertility to have healthy pregnancies and healthy babies. And that's how I came out into practice, knowing right away that there's a bigger picture and you just need to understand the map. You
Mm-hmm.
need the map of what's going on in that person's body. And, you give me 10 people that have high blood pressure, there's 10 different reasons why they have high blood pressure. You don't give them the same pill. I mean, that kind of logic doesn't work. It shortens lifespans. Now, you may need to take the medication for a short period of time, but you have to investigate. I was privileged to write a chapter in 2 different cardiovascular medicine textbooks for medical school. And I started off one chapter by saying the concept that atherosclerosis, the number one cause of death in the world today, atherosclerosis is a lipid storage disease, a fat storage disease. That concept is a historic misconception. It was
Mm,
proven in 1986 that atherosclerosis, your pipes plugging up, is an inflammatory disease. It's an
mm,
immune system creating inflammation that pushes the cholesterol and the calcium into your blood vessels and plugs them up. It's not the fats. And we've known that since 1986. Now it's widely accepted that that is the case. So the cardiologist is now caught between two lines of thinking. What do I give this person to calm down? They're presenting complaints, high blood pressure, chest pain, whatever it should be. What do I give them for their complaints? And how do I investigate where the inflammation's coming from? They're very different. And you need to think both ways. And cardiologists are trained really, really well to think about what do I give them for their symptoms. They have zero training in where did the inflammation come from. They don't have courses in nutrition. They don't understand functional medicine. After they've been out in practice and they come to our courses, now they go, oh, that just makes sense. And they get fired up again about their work, and that, every specialty, whether it's pediatric or psychiatric, oncologist, cardiologist, it doesn't matter. They get fired up when they come to our functional medicine courses because it's the best of science and it makes sense. Where is the inflammation coming from?
mm.
You have to stop throwing gasoline on the fire. That's critically important.
What are your thoughts with or recommendations with where fasting should play a role in our lives or protocols?
One of the experts that we interviewed is Professor Walter Longo. And Professor Longo, University of Southern California, is the point person in the world that's writing first-class research, just the best research on fasting and fasting mimicking diets and time-restricted eating and all of the benefits. There's no question it's extremely helpful, no question. Uh, but your disease doesn't come from a deficiency of fasting, right? So it's going to help. You're going to feel better. You absolutely feel better. It's kind of like when your iPhone starts acting up, shut it down. Shut it down and reboot it. So
Hmm.
when you're fasting, you're rebooting. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
But if the lifestyle is still exposing you to the gasoline on the fire, it's going to manifest somewhere. It's going to show itself either in the same symptoms you had before or in new symptoms.
Hmm. Gotcha. So, do you have recommendations then on a particular, I don't want to say diet, but I guess diet? I know there's a lot of thoughts and controversy out there sometimes about all the different diets, carnivore diets, vegan. Um, what are your thoughts? Where do you stand? What's your practice? I'm curious for yourself.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the concept is there is a general eating style that works for almost everyone in general principles.
Okay.
And sometimes you got to tweak it. You need to do keto for a while, or a carnivore diet or an autoimmune diet for a while. But the maintenance, if I could use that term, the maintenance eating style is a gluten-free Mediterranean diet. And it's really interesting. This paper came out by the Italians 2 years ago on this concept. And, the pyramid that you see for eating, the pyramid, they drew their own pyramid and they identified that the very bottom of the pyramid, what's most important and most dominant is water. So
Hmm.
many people are dehydrated. If you pinch the back of your skin like this, you pinch your skin, it should go down right away. It
Hmm.
it should not stay up and it should not slowly go down. It should just go flat like that really quickly. If it doesn't, you're dehydrated. Yeah, like that, but on your wrist, down on
Ah,
your,
okay. So something like this?
yeah, yeah, just like this. You pinch and let go,
Yeah. Okay.
and let go. Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I try to drink about 100 ounces a day. I'm trying to get a little bit closer to a gallon. Uh, Part of that is I have hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. I got diagnosed with that back in 2006 and 2000 or 2007. So with that genetic condition, hydration has always been something important for me. So, but I had not heard about that being at the foundation. Water. I know water
yeah,
is important, and it's so simple. It's so simple. I think people are just ignoring it because they're looking for something a lot more complex.
yeah.
I did an episode called Keep It Simple, and water is just one of the easiest things that we can do to improve our health.
Yeah, it's a third of an ounce per pound body weight, a third of an ounce. That's the minimum. And
Okay.
if you're sweating a lot because you're doing saunas or exercise that sweats a lot, it goes up from there, maybe a half ounce. But that's a minimum. You see, the number one problem in our world today, why every autoimmune disease is going up 4 to 9% a year, every year, why Blue Cross Blue Shield published a paper in February of 2020, and nobody read it because that's when the virus came out. But they said, we got a problem here. We got a real problem. In the previous 4 years, there was a 407%, not 10%, not 20%, not 100%, 407% increase in the diagnosis of Alzheimer's in 30 to 44-year-olds in four
Wow.
years. This is a huge problem. And it's the amount of environmental toxins we're being exposed to. People just don't understand. When you attend the inflammation equation, you're going to hear it every day. You're going to hear the world experts talking about, well, here's the problem, but here's what you can do about it. This makes it really easy. For example, David Furman from Stanford, very famous guy, he's got the contract with NASA to figure out why do the astronauts age so quickly in space. He tells us that NASA did the studies, financed the studies on houseplants. And houseplants absorb 74% of the toxins in the air in your home.
Mm.
Two 6-inch houseplants in a 10 by 10 room absorb 74% of the toxins. So you get houseplants in every room. And you learn the little secrets like that. That's what we're going to teach you.
I love it. I love it. Let's wrap up with that. Give us some details about the docu-series, where people can find it, how people can sign up for it, and any other resources that you like to share for the audience.
You bet. You bet. It's called the inflammation equation. And you can go to um, theinflammationequation.com/Lee, Lee, theinflammationequation.com/Lee. And as soon as you sign up, I give you the first gift is the full interview, the full 1 hour interview with Fran Drescher, the nanny. And it's just, you'll have tears in your eyes at some points. You'll be
Yeah.
laughing that it hurts your belly at other points. I mean, she's just the best. And, Fran had, she's a 24-year survivor of uterine cancer.
Mm.
And she said, my oncologist saved my life. And now she's my good friend. And I asked her, why did this happen? And she said, oh, I don't know. It just does. And Fran said, no, I don't accept that. So Fran decided to use her fame not to raise money for cancer research, but to raise money for cancer awareness. And what are the triggers of cancer? I mean, just read the label on your shampoo and copy the names of one of those chemicals, type it into Google, and type in the name of that chemical and cancer. And look at the studies on this. And so Fran is going to talk to you about how do you create a healthy home environment for you and your family. I mean, she's
Awesome.
just the best, just the best.
Yeah.
So
Dr. O'Brien, I really appreciate you being on the show. Stay on the line for just a second. We're going to stop here in just a minute. Final thought for the audience.
Final thought. We've been fed a line of bull as to how to stay healthy. And the result is everyone you know gets disease and everyone's dying before they should. You know, humans structurally, about 120 is what most scientists say. You know, they could live to 120. But most of us, we don't make it to 80. And the last decade of our life is disabled. It's not a healthy life at that point. And all of that is correctable. You just have to know how to read the map of what's going on in your body. So read your toothpaste. And when you see what's on the toothpaste, that's the kind of, what? That's ridiculous. That's the kind of stuff that you need to get aware of that we've taken for granted that our government's protecting us from. And they're not. They're not.
Yeah.
So to protect you and your family, you just need a little bit of education. And our event, the theme of our event is progress, not perfection. That you don't have to get it right. You know, you just have to stay in the ball game, keep working it a little bit at a time. And in 6 months, you've changed the direction of your health.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. O'Brien, for being on the show. Take
Thank
care.
You.